Well, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has launched a scathing attack on Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, claiming a short time ago that he has betrayed Israel. Let's go live to Jerusalem now, and I'm joined by our Middle East correspondent, Matthew Doran. Matthew, this is quite a strong statement that's coming from the Israeli PM. Why has he accused Anthony Albanese of betraying Israel?
Girish, good evening. You're right. This is an extraordinary personal attack from Benjamin Netanyahu to Anthony Albanese, and it has been fueled, we believe, on the decisions made in the last week and a bit with regards to Australia's foreign policy in the Middle East. First of all, that announcement last week by the Australian government that it would move to recognise a Palestinian state at the meeting of the UN General Assembly in September. And then since then, we have seen in the last couple of days the announcement that an Israeli figure, a far-right politician by the name of Simhat Rothman, has been banned from entering Australia for a speaking tour because his views are deemed by the Home Affairs Minister and the Home Affairs Department to be incendiary and likely to fuel division across Australia as he tours around there. This comment from Benjamin Netanyahu followed the announcement yesterday by the Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar that Australian diplomats working in the West Bank, the Australian diplomatic representatives to the Palestinian Authority in Ramallah, would have their visas revoked. A significant move there, and also indicative of the control that Israel still has on movement in and out of the West Bank. And it's all now culminated in what we've seen in the last couple of hours with this post on social media by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office. In that post, he says, specifically with regards to Anthony Albanese, that history will remember Albanese for what he is, a weak politician who betrayed Israel and abandoned Australia's Jews. This is a familiar line of rhetoric from Benjamin Netanyahu and from members of the Israeli government. Each and every time a country has acted in the last short while in a way which doesn't marry up with Israel's own policies, it does prompt a fiery response along these lines. But it is the first time that Anthony Albanese has been targeted in this way. He now joins a club there of other world leaders who face the ire of Benjamin Netanyahu, including the French President Emmanuel Macron and the British and Canadian Prime Ministers Mark Carney and Keir Starmer.
It's quite the extraordinary statement we just saw there from Benjamin Netanyahu. Matthew, what does this mean for Australia's relationship with Israel?
Well, you would have to say that there have been tensions present in this relationship for some time. Any moment where members of the Albanese government have criticised Israel in the last 6 months or so, saying things such as that the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is getting out of hand, that the policies by the Israeli government and the Israel Defence Forces are fueling starvation in the Strip. Each and every time they have been met with a fiery response. So you would have to say that the relationship there is already incredibly strained. What we do need to say, though, is that there is a distinction to be drawn here between the legitimate questions and criticism levelled at the Israeli government and the Israeli Defence Forces and this issue of anti-Semitism, this discrimination against the Jewish people. The position that Anthony Albanese and other members of the Australian government continue to put forward is that you can and you should be able to criticise the decisions of a government when it is acting in such a way in Gaza, but that does not mean an institution like the Australian government is therefore against every single Jewish person across Australia and around the world. We have seen the Netanyahu government continue to say that each and every time it is criticised, that is anti-Semitic. That is broadening out what anti-Semitism actually is there, but certainly that's the way that they are trying to present this, and it is fueling anger in Israel. A lot of questions as to whether or not Australia is a partner to Israel going forward, even as the Albanese government insists that it will be into the future.
And moving on to the war in Gaza. Now, Hamas says it has accepted a ceasefire proposal from Arab negotiators. What are the terms of this particular truce?
Yeah, this is the proposal put forward by Egypt and Qatar, who are trying to bring about some sort of mediated end to the war in Gaza. It appears, based on media reports, particularly in the Arab media, that this truce would involve a 60-day ceasefire in the initial stages, during which time half of the Israeli hostages still held by Hamas. There are 50 Israeli captives still in Gaza, 20 of whom are believed to be alive. During that 60-day period, half of them would be released. There would also, according to the terms of this deal, be a withdrawal by Israeli forces from key parts of Gaza. We do need to stress that this is a proposal which has been drafted by those mediators, accepted by Hamas, but we have not heard whether or not these terms are going to be accepted by Israel. So we shouldn't necessarily get ahead of ourselves and suggest that there is some sort of peace agreement in the offing. Certainly, Israel has continued to say that it has backed numerous ceasefire proposals drafted in part by the US government, these Witkoff proposals, the name there for the US Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff. Those are terms which Hamas has repeatedly denied, saying that they are built around safeguarding Israel's interests in this situation and do not go anywhere near trying to bring an end to this war, which is now well into its 22nd month. So there has been some movement in these talks, but again, Israel is having to consider its position, and we have had no response as yet as to what that Israeli position could be.
Okay, Matthew Doran in Jerusalem, thank you very much.